Hey everyone, so spring is here and we've made all these plants to put some stuff in the ground and what we're gonna do in this garden, but the one thing we have yet to do is actually test our soil. So I went out and got this soil test kit. You can find these at one of the big box stores, but I wanted to go over it a little bit because I already tried it real quick and the directions are not confusing, but it can kind of throw you off on how to actually do this. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the soil test here. I already did the first one here, which is a pH test. Now, when they run through the pH test, it's basically telling you, remove the lid, fill it with some soil to a line, then fill the rest of it with the little tablets here that it comes with. So there's these little tablets that you put in each color-coded tube here. So I did that and then fill up with water to the 4th line. And then it says, repeat for remaining capsules. And I did that, but the problem was, it's not the way it's supposed to work. But if you read further down, it tells you how to test for the nitrogen, phosphorus, and the potassium. And it tells you down here. So it kind of throws you off because it tells you repeat with the remaining capsules, but then it gives you some directions down here on how to do the rest. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the rest of it. But as you can see, I already did my pH here. It tells you how to color code it and tells you how much it is. So we're sitting at about 7.5 alkaline. So it's pretty good for some of the stuff that we want to grow here. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on with the rest. All right, so as I'm getting started with the rest of the test here, by far the pH one was the easiest. I have a little tool that you can grab the soil with. I shook it up, made sure there was no rocks and stuff in there. Then, I put it in here to the 1st line, then filled with the powder, then to the 4th line with water, shook it up vigorously, and I let it settle for about a minute or two, and it immediately turned to the color that it says it would turn depending on what your acidity is or your pH level is in your soil. So moving on to the next one. So this is where I got confused because I did the same thing. I repeated it with all 3 of them. It's not what you're supposed to do. If you read further down, it basically says, get a clean jar or can. I'm using a measuring cup here, just wash it out with soap. 1 part soil to 5 parts water. So I got about a little less than a 1/4 cup in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up to the whole cup line and a little bit past that because it's not quite 1/4, but that'll be about 5 parts water to soil right there. And then what it says next to do is to stir it for about a minute straight. And then we're gonna let this sit honestly for about 30 minutes. So we'll cut here and then we'll come back in 30 minutes to check on this. Okay. So the test says you can actually wait 30 minutes to 24 hours. It's actually the next day, so it's been about 18 hours. I decided to wait because it was starting to pour a little bit, and it was getting dark yesterday, so not a big deal. 18 hours, 24 hours, doesn't matter. Our soil, though, still looks a little cloudy. That tells me that we have a very fine clay soil. Something a little bit more coarse is gonna sell a little bit faster, but this is just too cloudy for my liking, so that tells me it's very fine clay, which kind of works, but that's what we're working with right now. So to move on with the test here, I wanted to do a test because some of these instructions are kind of confusing, and just to show you guys how to basically do it, there's a whole variety of tests you can get. I'll put a link down below for one on Amazon. It's not this exact one. This one I got at the big box store, but there's a bunch of them that give you different readings. Some have better reservoirs that'll tell you how to read it on the actual reservoir. Different tests you can do. You can actually do one that has about 7. You can do one that has 4, but we're gonna go ahead and do this one right now. All right, so moving along to this portion of the test. I actually wanted to show you guys how to do this because when I did the original pH one, I read the instructions up to a certain point and it says to repeat with the remaining capsules. Well, what it meant was repeat with the remaining green capsules. And if you're gonna do the other test, you actually have to read further down. I'm not sure if all the tests are the same, but it has different instructions for the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So basically what you do with these is you basically remove the cap, you get some of the water that's been settling, and fill it up to the 4th line in your tube here. All right, and then what we wanna do is we wanna grab one of our capsules here, carefully open it up so you don't spill it all over the place. And you just wanna put right in there, trying not to spill any of it. It's a powder though, so you might lose quite a bit depending on how steady your hands are. And then all we're gonna do is recap it. I'm gonna shake it pretty vigorously. All right, then I'm gonna continue with the remaining here, and it says to wait about 10 minutes for it to settle and start showing you the results. Okay, so while we're waiting the 10 minutes for our results to show, I did want to talk about why you should do a soil test and what the purpose of these soil tests are. Now, by no means are these tests going to give you all the data that you want. There's other places you can go for that, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, but I do want to talk about this one specifically. So, if this is your first time doing a soil test, the reason for a soil test is the pH. The pH level is going to tell you your alkaline and acidity level in your soil for certain types of plants that you want to grow, whether it's for vegetables or some shrubs or perennials that need a certain pH level. The other things you're looking for is the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium, now which is also known as NPK. So the nitrogen is largely responsible for the rapid growth and greening of your foliage, whether it's an annual, a perennial, or a shrub, or even vegetables. That's going to give you that green. The phosphorus is responsible for root growth as well as flower and fruit development. So if your phosphorus is low, you're going to have some issues with your root development, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to soil amendments. That's going to tell you whether you're going to have to amend your soil or put a mycorrhizae or a mycotone type of fertilizer to help those roots grow and establish themselves. Now the potassium is a nutrient that helps the overall function and health of a plant. It's going to help the plant perform correctly and support the plant's vitality, basically. Okay. So if you're looking for a little bit more detailed information, you could definitely use a soil sample kit where you can actually mail it in and they'll send you the results. I just did one. I haven't gotten my results, but I can tell you exactly what they're going to look for and things that they're going to show you. Now, depending on any information, whether they cross-share or stuff like that, they can always gather information from the neighboring houses or community or whatever and kind of give you a breakdown of certain things. Like, for instance, a regional soil profile. Like, it tells me I have 46% clay, 35% silt, and 19% sand. Now, all these numbers are just what they're getting as an average in the community or what they've tested here before. Based off of what I actually send in, then I'll get the correct numbers. But to continue, some of these apps will give you growth potential, the historical growth potentials throughout the month, the temperature, the historical temperature averages, highs and lows. You're also going to get a historical rainfall gauge. It's going to tell you how much rain to expect per month, so that's always pretty good. And then you get a predicted soil analysis until you actually get the results back. So this is telling me that I am actually low in organic matter. And so that's something that I'm gonna have to work with, whether I'm gonna do certain beds in certain areas or plant something in the ground in certain areas. That's gonna depend on how much compost or organic matter I have to put into the soil there and work into it. My soil pH is good. It's a little high, but nothing to be too concerning. And it also has a cation exchange. Now, cation exchange, that's what I was looking for when I did the soil test, because I'm trying to regrow the grass here. Now, the cation exchange is gonna tell you basically how much water your soil can retain. And so mine is actually pretty good, so it can retain a good amount of water and help this grass grow. And I've noticed that water in certain areas of the garden, it absorbs it pretty good. It doesn't puddle anywhere, I don't have any mud anywhere, and it doesn't stay really, really dry. And then it's gonna give you a projected nutrient level as well until you get your results again. Like I said, you're gonna get like a potassium. Mine says soil's likely sufficient. Phosphorus, same thing, likely sufficient. Sulfur, calcium, magnesium. Again, you're gonna get all these different results when you do an actual soil test and you send it to somewhere where they're actually gonna do the testing for you, because you're gonna get other information like iron, boron, copper, manganese, and zinc. Okay, so it's been about a good 10 minutes and I'm starting to look at my results here, and I'm telling you right now that right now our potassium is high. It's almost matching the highest number on here, so that's pretty high there. So that's telling me that as far as the overall health of a plant or anything I put in the ground, it's gonna be pretty good, but you want everything to be pretty level. You want it to be good. Again, depending on what you're planting in the ground, you're gonna look for these different levels in certain areas. My phosphorus, I'm telling you, my phosphorus is very, very low because it's pretty much clear. I mean, it's a little blue, but very, very lightly. And then our nitrogen. So our nitrogen is low. It's not very low. It is low. And I'm kind of shooting for medium here because we have a variety of things that we're going to plant here. So I kind of want a medium scale across the top. So depending on what beds I do, I might add some, some compost, some other things that are going to help that soil bring those levels a little bit up. The potassium, not so much. We want to keep it where it's at. I think that's just fine. And our nitrogen is good. We were, our biggest concern was growing hydrangeas because we love to grow hydrangeas. But now we're in the south, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But it was the soil that was a little bit concerning. But you know, the pH is actually just great for hydrangeas. I don't think we're gonna have an issue there. And this just goes to show one of the reasons blueberries actually grow great in containers is because it's not enough acidic soil. You can see the pH is very alkaline here. So if you stuck a blueberry here, it's not gonna do great. A lot of people put them in containers because you can maintain the acidity in there. You can put a soil acidifier and they're gonna grow much better in containers because you can maintain those levels of acidity. Whereas if you plant in the ground, and I'm not sure about the rest of the country, but I know most grounds here in Texas, it's gonna be high in alkaline. It's not gonna have too much acidity. So, you know, if that's something you're looking for, that's just a basic kind of breakdown of, you know, why pH is so important in your garden when it comes to certain types of plants, why, you know, you have the NPK numbers the way you do, and whether you want to do vegetables or perennials or annuals and stuff like that. And a lot of these, like I said, are really going to help out, you know, for smaller projects. Like I said, you want much more detail, just send that stuff in, you get the results right away. But that's gonna do it for the video, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this. I try to give you the best information I can based off of a soil test. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.